Welcome back again on the Pan-African Friday. Today we are again happy to be with our people who are following this program from the African continent, those in the Caribbean, those in the Latin America, in Beijing, Washington, wherever you are following us, on whichever platform you are following us, we appreciate, and definitely we appreciate this time that you are going to be with us on this program. Today, it's a full house, and you will bear with us. I think we have been a bit off last week. Yeah, last week we were there. It was the other week when we had other programs that were broadcast live, so they, of course, had to interrupt our programming. But today, we are back with you. Today in the studio, I'm joined by Ndugu Rugarama. Of course, Ndugu Rugarama is always here as a panelist. We shall be missing Sister Rachel, who apparently is within but out. But also we are joined by Ndugu Irumba Andrew. Now Ndugu Irumba Andrew Katusabe is a founding speaker of the Pan-African Pyramid. I think when time comes he will talk about what the Pan-African Pyramid means. But we're also joined by another son of Africa, that is Ndugu Joshua Maponga. Now, if it were in Uganda, I would be calling him Mabonga, but it's because he is from the ends of Zimbabwe. He's called Joshua Maponga, and he will be with us on the program. And of course, for those who know, Bwana Maponga is one of the Africans who is very passionate about African issues, about African values. He's a writer, but also has also had a lot of trouble with people when it comes to African values. I remember one time he was taken to court because I think there was a claim that he was being antisocial by and discriminating the homosexuals. I think he will talk to us about that also, what happened, because it comes at a footnote when Uganda is trying to regulate the issues of homosexuality in this country. But also Ndugu Cade from USA will also be joining us at some point if the time allows. And I think Cade is already with us on screen there. But Cade, Kampala is good morning. I don't know where you are. US, I think, must be evening. Well, we are not able to get your sound, but we shall get back to you shortly when the sound engineers have worked on you. But today we are looking at, because something that we had earlier on looked at, the issue of African development in relation to religion. Is religion such an issue in Africa today as it was, or is it an issue only concerning Africans? Are we having same sentiments elsewhere on the globe about religion, or it is Africa only where you find people, instead of doing a lot of things, the issue of religion seems to be becoming center stage in terms of development, but also in terms of identification. So we shall be looking at that, and I know most of you, the people who will be on this discussion today, will be bringing a lot of insights about religion on that. Now, before we come to that, I will ask the panelists who are with me in the studio now to introduce themselves, but then we shall quickly move on. Normally, we start our week with how the week in the African context has been. Of course, we have been having a lot of issues on the continent, including the war in Sudan, the landslides and flooding in Rwanda, where a lot of lives have been claimed. But I think because of the gravity of this issue also, we'll go straight to the discussion. But before we go to that, I will bring to you shortly Ndugu Rugarama to introduce himself, and also then I'll move to Ndugu Katusabe.
Good morning, dear comrades. I'm happy once again to be with you this morning. I'm a regular, really. We are the founders here, but those who are probably watching for the very first time, my name is Comrade Rugaramba Daniel. I'm the chairman of the Pan-African movement in Uganda, and so many other things. But I think the intention of Comrade Mtuta to say we introduce ourselves is to briefly note probably what has happened in the week as our custom. But,
but
briefly,
we may not dwell much on that because we want today to share a lot from the people who are joining us, especially for the first time on this program.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Let me just say to our viewers that we have had floods throughout the country, especially in the western part of Uganda, and I think we need better management of such things, because we know at any one given time there will be heavy rains. We have also had the unfortunate occurrence where we have lost our state minister for labor, and the killing emanating from his own person or bodyguard who is supposed to provide protection and who is provided by government, and also that has got a lot of lessons to teach us. And I think the government should really come in and improve where it is weak, because I detected as an individual a number of weaknesses which can easily be filled up when we are up our game.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ndugu Katusabe, what do you mean by the African pyramid rather?
First of all, good morning, dear comrades, those of you who are watching us, and good morning, my colleagues who are with me here. It's my first time to be on this show, so I want to thank you and Comrade Rugarama for the invitation. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe Atenyi. I am the founding speaker and chairman of the Pan-African Pyramid. Pan-African Pyramid is an organization founded in Uganda, but with global chapters that actually champions the cause of the African child across the world. Number two, I am a journalist. I work with the SPY Uganda. I'm the CEO of the SPY Uganda and Detective UG.
Okay.
I am also the president of Indoja. Indoja is Independent Online Journalists Association. It's an association that brings together online journalists or online media houses. So I'm the president.
Oh, that's great.
So I am glad to be here. So in our journalistic environment, I would like to send my condolences to the family of the late Colonel Angola, and also the bodyguard family, and he comes from our place, Toro. But I think I have read a lot of different angles people are taking the matter, even before the investigations are done by the able trained security operatives, because I've seen a lot of versions. I think it is too early to make conclusions.
Exactly, because especially
allow the investigating arm of government make conclusive report and investigation, and then they can tell the world what exactly happened. Because I have heard now some people even playing fun. Has your bodyguard had lunch?
Because when
that is social media for you.
That is the social media.
This was in the morning. This was in the morning. Who tells you that man was hungry?
A lot happens, especially when death happens and in some circumstances. Now, let me do a roundup. If we are having Ndugu KD online from the US first.
I want to say greetings to you all. I hope I can be heard just wonderfully. It's a pleasure to be back once again with the Pan-African Friday, the distinguished panel.
You picked a I don't know if you can hear us, but I think you need to unmute because you are muted.
No, I'm not muted. I'm speaking. You got to unmute in the studio.
Well, I think we'll get back to you. We are not able to get to you now. Let's go to Zimbabwe. If Ndugu Joshua is online.
I don't think Maponga is online yet.
Yes, sir. Good morning and greetings to you.
Yeah, that is.
All your listeners around the world.
We are very happy in the studio here in Uganda, in East Africa, to hear you all the way from Zimbabwe, my brother.
Yes, all is well. What a privilege and honor to be with you. I wonder if my video is fine or I need to landscape it.
Your video is not okay. It has a lot of the background lighting, and I'm sure many of the Africans listening to you on this program would want to see you because many of them have been hearing about Mabonga, and here would call you Mabonga, and they would want to definitely see you. Now, while you are working on the video, I think Nduku Gaidi is already now prepared. If you can hear if you can pick his sound.
Yes, I'm here. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, now,
okay now.
Finally, we are hearing we are hearing you.
Yeah.
Now, quickly.
Yeah,
quickly, we want to hear from you about where you are. How is America today?
Well, I am in Las Vegas on the western portion of the United States. And the United States is going through a lot of troubles. As you are probably well aware, there is a de-dollarization movement that's going on around the world. The United States is also being caught up in kind of backlash from its poor treatment of other countries. Was this summit in December, the second USA African Leadership Summit. And there's been quite a bit of backlash from that. So things are not going so bad here, but they are not going so well. In certain ways, I feel like I'm in the lower decks of a sinking Titanic.
Yeah, one time you will have to come back to Africa if the American dream is no longer working. We shall come back to you after this, of course, with the main discussion of today. Today we are going straight to the discussion so that we can cover more ground, and because the topic we are discussing is a bit wide, that's why we wanted to go straight without having to save a lot of time from the beginning. Now we will go back to Ndugu Joshua, and we pick from where we were because we also wanted to hear from him from Zimbabwe.
Is he not in South Africa?
All is well. All is well. We are heading for elections in the country, and
exactly.
The challenges are.
We wanted you to tell us something about the elections coming in the next two months or 3.
Yeah. So the campaigns are running, and leaders are on the ground campaigning, but as you already know my position, I'm not excited about changing political leaders without changing the system, which we hope that politicians make a difference. But until we understand fully that the system at which they are functioning under is a colonial system,
sure,
you are expecting a fox to look after sheep.
Exactly.
And then you wonder why the sheep are always disappearing.
I love that. I love that.
You have my mind on that. Sure, yeah. So, Ndugu Mabonga, here I'll call you Mabonga now. Many of the people who are watching you today on this show, I think for the first time, may not know much about you. I was trying to introduce to them this African son, but it is better you introduce yourself so that from here onwards, and of course we shall be having more of you, people who are watching this program, those who don't know you, will be able to understand the person, the African we are sharing with today.
Oh, well, that's a lot to ask from me to introduce myself.
I understand.
I guess Vujana Joshua come to you from an institution called Farmers of Thought, where I'm the founder and CEO of that institution. We are responsible for developing the estate of the mind, the estate of reproduction, and the estate of the land. You cannot give a man the land underneath his feet if he does not own the land between his 2 ears. Mm-hmm. So we are in the business of human resource development to change the quality of political leaders for the next generation. Sure. I am the watcher from the future, living with you in the present, with solutions from the past. I thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. There's a whole story to be told there, but that is Ndugu Joshua, who apparently is very passionate about leadership, issues of leadership, issues of politics, issues of economy. And when Ndugu Kaidi was talking about the de-dollarization, I think he must have picked it, and there is a lot that he can share with us on that. Now, Ndugu Maponga, today we are looking at issues of religion. And you know, it is only in Africa where you find people at the time when others are going to work, we are spending nights and days in churches. We are praying because, of course, we are related with God, I think, so much than the rest of the world, which is not bad. But at the same time, when you look at the issues that have been passed down on us from the colonialists, are we still observing the same religion that our forefathers would have wanted us to observe? Are we even following Christian values, or we are following religious values? And what is the connection between us with our religion? Because, you know, Africa has its own religion. We also now have come to be told a religion which is more superior, but also we are now learning that beyond the religion we were told there is the true God. There is the true God under Christianity, but there's also the religion that the colonialists were promoting. We wanted to pick your idea on that. I know this is a very wide topic, but it's something that you already have been discussing, I think, with other groups, but wanted also to share with you from that point of view.
The mind and the hands of a drunk man, they don't belong to him. They belong to the sober. And if religion is being used as a drug to intoxicate the nation, there is no way you can ask them if they are in their right minds, when in fact they are under some religious intoxication. Yes, we have moved away from the knowledge and I can't even call it a religion, because then I'll still be using the hegemony of the West in terms of describing ourselves. We don't have religions as Africans. That is a Western construct. What we have is natural lifestyle, which other people might want to term African spirituality, which is basically translated humanity living in harmony with nature. So we've lost that. And because we've lost that, we are harvesting the result of poor political governance, lack of moral and ethical guidance, degradation of nature, and theft of our resources, useless academic institutions, and medical attention has been undermined. Fashion has been imbibed in the West. Technologies are only venerated when they come packaged in European packages. Above all, we have just become coconuts who are brown on the outside, but our minds have become white. It will take resetting this phone to its factory settings. I thank you.
Yeah, and I'll pick again something from that you have raised, and something that over some time we have discussed here, the issue of leadership. Because we sometimes lament and sometimes even blame the West that they are able to influence this. We have been talking about this, I think, a week ago when we were talking about the issues of Sudan, that it is the invisible hand that is now forcing the Africans to be put on a coalition cause, and yet someone in some capital is watching to see how they can take advantage of that and plunder the resources. What should be the role?
You cannot even begin to expand that and say these are African leaders. I think you are exaggerating the Africanness, African leaders, quote unquote. These are leaders who studied in Harvard, who studied in Cambridge, who studied in Massachusetts and in New York, who went to Makerere University, who went to other universities. And the question is, when you take your children to Caesar, are you scared when they come back as Romans? Then software that those leaders you are talking about, it is not African software. It is colonial software. It will be naive for us, almost bordering on madness, to expect African leaders to act any differently when they look like any one of us and have been trained like any one of us, with ambitions and appetites like any one of us. It's only that when you become a leader, they become exaggerated. So the issue we are really addressing at the grassroots is that of education and orientation. There is no way you can take your children for 25 years in a colonial academic system and they come back respecting the indigenous knowledge systems. I thank you.
Yeah, that is very great. And I think, I don't know if colleagues in the studio here have something to share with the Joshua, but the issues that he is raising are very pertinent issues. And we've sometimes been talking about this, that even as we talk of the founding fathers of these countries of Africa, who are they? Most of them are products of the same people who we say were looters. So, like I said, if Caesar has trained your child, you can't avoid him to be. But what happens here? Are we completely giving up? What will be the hope of Africa? And I think I will get that question right with the Nduku Kaidi in the US. Kaidi, do you think we have given up? Do you think there is hope for Africa? And of course, we shall come back to Joshua to give us more on that. Luke Kaidi, are you able to get us?
Yes, I do hear you. It's a wonderful question. I am increasingly encouraged as we see new generations of African leadership come into place. The first post-colonial generation of leadership, as our brother Joshua pointed out, was largely educated at Western institutions, but they were ill prepared to inherit, I should say, the complexity of the governments from which they were dealing. Of course, they had some very powerful visionaries in that first generation of post-colonial leadership.
I'm not able to get the video of KD, please. I'm not able to get that video. I think someone should be able to get us that video. Ndugu Gaidi, you continue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. We shall get the video on screen.
Okay. Now, the second generation of African leadership, because of shortcomings that occurred in the first generation, the second generation of African leadership were military strongmen. They were wise enough, prepared enough to take the reins of government, but not at all prepared to run the complexities of the governments that they inherited, as well as we still have the lingering of the colonial borders set in Berlin. It just absolutely did not work for African sustainable.
Well, we have lost KD, but we'll be back when he gets back on screen. Ndugu Rugarama, you are saying something following Joshua's presentation.
Joshua has got very strong and correct observations about the African way of life. We have said here many times that our way of life was rudely interrupted when we first, our great-grandfathers were captured and taken as slaves. Later, when we experienced colonialism, and with the so-called departure of colonialism, which was replaced by imperialism, which is still obtaining, we have our culture, our way of life has suffered greatly. And matters have not been helped because the education system, which Maponga has talked about, and Kaidi was also peaking slightly before we lost him, I hope he comes back, is typically the colonial type of education. Worse still is that matters are not helped even when we obtain it from here. Because what you get from Makerere University, in majority of the cases, is not so much different actually from what you get from probably Harvard or any of those other geographically located universities in the West. But what is of critical importance is that the content itself has not helped the African person to be able to identify by practice that he is actually an African. Indeed, like Comrade Maponga pointed out, we are African on the outside using the expression of coconut. We are African on the outside, but the software is actually not African in the sense of the word. The software is the imperialistic, the Western kind of software, which certainly cannot be expected to produce results that are actually African in nature. So we need a rebirth of knowledge. We need to go back and carry out a revolution. If we had a revolution in chasing away physical imperialism, then we need a greater revolution in liberating our mind, which I want to term as ideological revolution. If that, therefore, includes decolonizing our mind, doing away with the so-called religious practices that are foreign and are not speaking to our development, so be it.
Now, I think, again, Maponga raises the other issue of the mindset, like you are saying, because you can give man whatever you can give, but if that land between his ears is not worked on, of course, when you reference that to the land in Zimbabwe, when the Africans were given the land after the departure of the whites, and of course it was a very big up to now issue in Zimbabwe. But do you realize there has been a change? And I think Ndugu Maponga will talk to us more about that. Now, we're having him. I think a lot of things we'll be sharing as Africans will learn a lot from him. But now, when we look at this, because in the same education, in these universities, we go there, the whites go there, the Americans go there, the Russians go there. So where is the problem? And look, Pan-African, you can talk to us that. Is it the African mind that even if you are told to what, like they say, a rat will remain a rat even if you took it to the dogs?
Okay, thank you, comrade. And I'd like to thank my comrade, Mr. Joshua Maponga from Zimbabwe, and Comrade Kaidi for the opening arguments that they put across. I love the line of Comrade Maponga. The African mind has been distorted right through the education system. Through the education system that actually even begins on the very first day you are born. You know, when you are born, the very first thing they do is to name you Andrew, to name you Joshua, to name you Daniel. They have already started the process of ensuring that they own you. Normally, actually, by the time they give you an African name, it is after the English name has been given to you. The African name can even come later on, but first thing is, then they will buy you a rosary, buy you this and that. They have already started owning you. The universities that Mr. Maponga talked about, Mackay University in Uganda, when you go and check the scholarships and the programs that are funded by Western powers, the programs in an African university, I have heard of Confucius
Confucius.
Confucius.
Some
Chinese.
Yes, they are teaching Chinese
in
here.
language departments.
And Africans are very, very glad to adopt it because there is also funding attached to it. They are very, very interested in learning that or adopting that.
There's
than,
also
than the African languages.
The
Like
women,
for instance,
the women issues.
Yeah, you may find here somebody is a Muganda but doesn't know actually his Uganda very well. When you ask them, they say, I did not grow from Uganda. But you will find them struggling so much to learn Chinese. So it's that mindset that actually sets us to remain talking as if we are victims every day. Some of these things are self-inflicted, comrade. Right now, there are Africans who are supporting LGBTQ. Don't think that they don't know that what they are supporting is wrong.
In fact, Ndugu Maponga is one of the victims.
There is the funding.
Yes.
So, if you don't have the capabilities of saying, I am ready to die for this, no matter how much, but this is me, this is who I am. If you're taken by the cramps that they push around their choices, and you're taken up by those small things, tomorrow I don't want you to keep also blaming the white man.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you have gone to school, even if it is their schools, but you're able also to grasp some knowledge that can help you in decision making individually. So it is that greed that even manifests in our politicians, those that are in charge of our national budgets.
Because they are products of the system anyway.
So it is that greed that is manifested at every level of the African child that the white man takes advantage of. So meanwhile, as we blame them, we also should also blame ourselves. What are we doing to reverse the trend? Up to now, 62 years later of independence, the so-called independence, are you saying that you can still not, realize that somebody who wants to use you will give you a small penny, but what he takes away from you is bigger? After 62 years, you cannot think that way. In terms of our national involvement as a country, are you saying that after 62 years, 70–80% of your national budget is still being funded by the Western powers? And those are the same people who are promoting the things that you don't want to talk about in your country, LGBTQ and others.
And they will tell you to keep quiet because
they are funding you 70%, and you are accepting their money.
Exactly.
You are accepting, you are not refusing. So, is it correct for us to keep lamenting? No. We know what's wrong, and we know we are the solution. Why are we not taking that path? Because we think we must first grab those small crumbs.
We go back to the US. I think by now we have KD online, and KD, you can talk to us, and we'll continue from where we had stopped. We are not able to get KD. I think he's now off the line, and I don't know why. I think we'll be looking for him. Now, let's go back to Zimbabwe from Ndugu Joshua to hear these issues of lamentation, because we are looking at the issues of religion, but also issues that are coming up, definitely, which we must look at today. The issues of lamentation. For how long shall we continue lamenting, or there must be at least some light at the end of the tunnel that Africa should be looking at? Ndugu Maponga, if you are able to talk to us.
People go through which we call a process of mourning, or a process of crying. When firstly you discover that the loved one has died, then you mourn what you should have done with them, that you did not do with them. Then you wake up and you discover, no, they are gone. They are not coming back. Then you must bury them. Then the real mourning starts when you discover you are on your own and this person is not there. I want to move away from mourning and start moving towards solutions. Firstly, I want to make a call to Uganda and East Africa that we need a meeting, we need a conference of professionals in the country, where I would want to become part of that, if you allow me to, where we can actually begin to discuss how do we convert our professions into production lines and means of production. This will include a vigorous conversation. I heard you asking the issue of land in Zimbabwe. Yes, land was taken through the liberation struggle. Fortunately enough, many of the farm workers who had worked on the land transited into owning those farms. So we had a certain amount of education that went with the taking away of land. However, the disadvantage is that the banks and the insurance companies were still colonial, and they were not willing and prepared to start funding new black people who are now running the farms, which used to be run by the white people. Therefore, it speaks to me to the 7 pillars of African transformation, which I have designed and I'm submitting to the panel on a book that I wrote entitled African Problems and African Solutions, or African Questions and African Solutions, where the first pillar is the pillar of governance. How do we transform governance? Because there's no way you can put a police and then you expect an African leader to come out of that. So we need to relook at the Roman and Dutch law and ask ourselves just one question. Are we Roman and are we Dutch? And which part of the Roman Dutch law applies to us? Because within that constitution, within that law, is who owns the land, how must we get married, who banks with what, who must carry minerals, how must they mine those minerals. The list goes on into what you might want to call your constitution. And how much of that constitution is purely African? The answer is point-something%. So the governance pillar needs lawyers and legislative framework to begin thinking along the line of that. I have a good friend of mine from the University of Nazarene in Kenya, Professor, what's his name? Professor Ojwang, who actually has a PhD and a professor in indigenous governance systems. These are the people we need to come to the fore and share information as to how do we transform governance. I don't have all time to lecture you guys. There is a pillar of business and commerce. How do we transform that to form an African stock exchange, which speaks to our minerals and then convert that into an active production system, just like China did, reverse engineering. I'm so glad Uganda is now producing buses and etc. So is Ghana, so is Nigeria. How do we create that economy and patronize those businesses? Education is next. What quality of education are we receiving? How do you train children? How many legs does a grasshopper have? And you don't teach your children about the potential of Lake Victoria, the amount of resources in terms of diamonds and gold that are found in Uganda. You graduate with a PhD in Uganda, but still don't know what Uganda is made out of. That's a useless education. I'm sorry to say that. Professors who have manufactured, designed, or innovated anything, if have not done anything for the past 62 years, I'll take away all those degrees and throw them in the dustbin. Because you are not doing us a favor, but you're simply photocopying fools and photocopying employees for the Western economy. So governance, business, education, culture, agriculture, entertainment, sports, spirituality, and religion. So if we can look at those 7 pillars and then identify the professions and the professionals in those fraternities to bring to the fore their assessment of the system 62 years later, I think we will have started a process which my learned brother is bringing across. We'll start moving away from just moaning and pointing fingers outside.
Exactly.
Now we have instruments of power in our hands.
Sure.
Ministry of Education. What are you doing with the Minister of Education if you can't even design an educational program that benefits your own people? So we need problem-solving educational qualifications. Every high school must have a factory, skills training, industry, mining orientations, agricultural orientations, so that even at completion of your educational qualifications, you are useful to your own economy. Right now, education is a passport to the Western world. And I think the brain drain of Africa is actually a result of the quality of education our children have received. I thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think that is. I think we can't agree more to that. And the issues that Maponga is raising are the painful facts that Africa is faced with. We have education systems, but over time it is now being discovered that maybe these education systems are no longer working. No wonder countries, including Uganda now, people are saying, no, we need to revise. Let's revise the curriculum. Is it answering some of the questions, like he has been saying, the questions vis-a-vis the problems? Are these questions being answered? Are we able to resolve some of these problems? And in fact, I think these are critical issues that we need to look at. Ndugu Garama, you I could see you are following him and almost clapping. What was the peak of Maponga's presentation?
No, in all fairness, Comrade Maponga has always, I follow him on his YouTube channel. He has always had the issues that affect the African man, whether that African man is on the African continent or beyond, correctly assessed. And what he has just pointed out, I could as well have kept listening to him. But I would want that we really take stock of what we have gained as the African people on the African continent since when we regained the independence, because there is also a problem of thinking that we gained independence when the colonial man left, as if we didn't have independence as the African people. So the correct statement is when we regained independence. Now, what we have done with the regained independence is the question. And like our senior brother, Pierre Lumumba, would say, did we really regain our independence? Because the same independence has actually, right from the start, was infested with imperialism. You know that the entire French West Africa, all the 14 countries or so, signed, with exception I think of 2, signed a pact for continuation of colonialism. Their Central Reserve Bank is in Paris. It is estimated that well over $500 million, is it per year or per month, is given to, goes to France. The money which of those independent, so-called independent countries in West Africa, if they are to borrow, they must write. Or their militaries, the force, be it police and what have you, it is the French to, and I'm talking about the French West Africa, just as an isolated example. The same story is recreated in other places that were colonized and whoever colonized them. You find that the police, the army, the purchase of the equipment. Now, how can you be independent when the former, so-called former colonial master knows your military capacity because he's the one who supplies you the weapon? So at the end of the day, that's why you are saying, seeing, for instance, in part of, was it Ivory Coast? It was very easy for the French to come and help out in disposing a president and also helping out a new president coming in referring him to the ICC, then shortly thereafter dropping the charges. So that kind of game, therefore, is what we are looking at. But at the end of the day, when you put that one in the place of this African person, therefore, how independent, how free is this person from the shackles of the former physical colonial master? My answer is that almost none. If anything, the grip is now stronger than it was, because what capitalism does, this capitalism, which is the highest grade of imperialism, what it does is to put you in a squeeze whereby if you do not think outside the box, you will think, and I think he was trying to point it out, you will think you are a Catholic, and we have had, by the way, this debate, and we have read, intercoursed with the literature, where the African person will kill for religion. We have had so many wars on the African continent in particular, and we are still experiencing them, where we are fighting in the name of religion. You are fighting because so and so is establishing a government in that particular country, just mere geographic expressions, where it is Islam. And you are like, for us, we are Catholics, and it must be the Catholics that must be in leadership. It must be the Anglicans that must be in leadership. So these wars are ongoing. There is even a temptation to think that what is happening in Sudan, for instance, and what was happening in the South Sudan, being meted out by the fellow Sudanese later before the South Sudan broke off, was purely a religious and tribal war. We have seen tribal wars. You see, let's cut out the pretense. The so-called First and Second World Wars were nothing but tribal wars. These were different tribes fighting. The only thing that persuades those who don't want to think past the weekend is that when they got some of the other tribes from Africa and they took them to Burma and other areas and created the semblance of the entire world participating so that it qualified those wars to be world wars. But in actual sense, these were just tribal wars, because the tribes that disagreed were those ones of Europe, and they just brought people who are not part and didn't know what they were fighting about. The point I want to conclude with on this is actually one, that the so-called religious differences, for instance, the way of life, the beliefs and what have you, because if we must take religion, for instance, as a way of life, what is the way of life of a Roman Catholic? You who is not Roman, here in Uganda, here, there in Zimbabwe, somewhere in South Africa, what is so Roman Catholic about you when it comes to planting, when it comes to plowing your land, when it comes to educating your children about the values that our former great-grandfathers and mothers were practicing? What is so Roman Catholic about you by putting on a rosary or professing to be Anglican, that you are Anglican, and therefore that because so and so is not, you are not going to form business, you are not going to trade simply because so and so is not of the same religious affiliation. We must therefore, in a way of recapitulating on this point, we must, if we must forge ahead, we must be able to create a situation where the African person, wherever he exists, America, Caribbean, African continent, we must go back and rediscover ourselves, develop a consciousness, a black man's consciousness that makes that person to realize the potential from within, that it is us, after appreciating ourselves, that we are going to make a leap forward on all frontiers. Short of that, we shall continue to experience discrimination, subjugation, where other people's way of life, called religion, and other aspects of life are going to be imposed on us, and we take them as our own, and that way...
They are not going to be. They are.
They are already.
Yes.
And that way, therefore, we are not going to make any development in any aspect apart from being servants of that person who has designed to make us and keep us servants.
Mabonga raised it, the issue of pretense of even talking of the leaders that we have in Africa as not because of the production through which they have come. That we, all of us, of course, have been products of this educational system. And at the end of it, we have people who are Africans, of course, using the coconut example, but the software is far, far different from who we are. Now, Ndugu Katusabe, when you look at all this, do you think that there must be a different approach to issues in Africa, or we should, because even Mabonga raised it, and I remember Ambassador, this lady also raised it, Chihombora raised it.
Arcana.
Yes, saying removing one president and replacing him with another is not the solution. As long as the system that brings these presidents to be is still there, we are not addressing, and we have seen this actually happen in many countries where people have been removed and others have come and have even been worse than those they found there. Do you think Africa needs to have a new approach to the leadership?
Okay, to begin with, let me begin with the Comrade Lugarama's submission on world wars. He urges that these world wars were based on tribal disagreement.
These were just tribal wars.
Yeah, that's one of them. But also, very important to note, these were not just tribal wars that they were not thinking outside the box. These were tribal wars, but also fights for supremacy. And fight for supremacy, especially for the African continent, meant that if I come and take over Congo, that wealth of Congo now belongs to me, the conqueror, isn't it? So that does not, look like a small war between me and you or between the tribes. No, that's why now it's spread to be a world matter, because they were fighting for supremacy. Who can head here with all its resources? An example is even right now, many years after Congo took its independence, they said now they're independent in documentation.
Mm-hmm.
They still speak French. How does it come about? Because they were colonized by France. You get it?
The Belgians.
Yeah, because even the Belgians, I think someone has still a property. Someone, there's still someone's property.
Rwanda and Congo and so on.
And for that matter, actually, Congo itself, if I may just lend you this
Exactly.
point, was a personal property of Leopold,
Yeah.
King Leopold.
And they still have a lot of concessions there.
Yes.
But anyway, when we come back, I think we are going off for a short break. We'll be back, and please don't go away. Today, the discussion is very interesting. We started with knowing that we are going to talk everything about religion, but a lot of issues have come up. And of course, these are very cardinal issues when it comes to the African way of life. And we'll still continue with the brother Mabonga, who is in Zimbabwe, and KD in the US, and also Panelist in the studio here. Please, so don't go away, just stay with us.
Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial *100 *10# to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial *100 *10#. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial *100 *10# to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, under the auspices of the East African Community, will host the 10th East African Petroleum Conference and Exhibition 2023 from the 9th to the 11th of May 2023 at the Kampala Serena Hotel in Uganda. Take full advantage of the investment opportunities in the East African region's vibrant oil and gas sector. To find out more on how to sponsor, exhibit, or attend the 10th EAPCE 23, visit www.eapce23.eac.int.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
Their support meant so much to me. And as a teenage girl, I stayed focused and was protected from child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I will support other girls against child marriage and teenage pregnancy.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sawuti 116.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey! You don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Professional guidance.
There is no special antiretroviral therapy that is given specifically for discordant couple.
And of course, politics.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for Anita Mong and Tayebo?
That is laughable. Why would we pay when we have nominated them as SEC?
Every party has been represented in Uganda's parliament for 10 years. We only by one MP, you yourself and my daughter, Susan.
Every Friday 9 p.m. it's One-on-One with Michael Jordan Lukomwa on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that break on this Pan-African Friday, where we look at issues that concern this continent of Africa. Of course, some of them are really interesting, others are so heartbreaking, but this is the life that is in Africa, and a lot is to be done. Of course, a lot has been done. Still, we have a long way to go, but each of us on this particular continent has a part to play, not on the continent, because when we're talking about the Africans or the blacker people, if that's the identity, live beyond the continent of Africa, the geographical boundaries of Africa that were set by those who thought Africa would be confined to one area. Now, before we went off, we were looking at the issues that are now coming into play when it comes to the leadership of Africa. We just recycling leaders fitting in an old system which was put in place by those who thought it would work for them, and of course it still works for them, or Africa can take a different path to its development to be able to realize its dreams. Unfortunately, we are not having Ndugu Kaidi online. I think he has a problem with the system, but definitely at one point we shall be picking back him from as we go along. Now we'll go back to Zimbabwe. We are talking to Ndugu Maponga.
I think he was finishing.
Who,
I was finishing my point from Kamzi.
I think so.
I was finishing. We went to the break when it was actually me on the.
Yeah. So we will do, pick up the thinking of Ndugu Maponga, and before we go to him, because he's one person who has also had a long experience with the African struggles, of course, and as a scholar and a writer, there's a lot that we can benefit from his ideas. But Ndugu Katshaba, I think, had something, was finishing on with the wars that the Africans have been, proxy wars actually, that we have been fighting on this continent on behalf of other people, and even those who are fighting today actually are still the proxy.
Okay, so now let me crown it all like this. These two world wars mainly were engineered by sharing of resources. And sharing of resources at that time, it was difficult for you to say, I am in charge of Congo, I'm in charge of Uganda, when you have not fought for it. You know, it was survival for the fittest.
Yeah, well, actually some
yes,
of
that's why it is the largest armory that governed the biggest part of the world, using armory. So, Africa, we simply became victims because we were weak. And those who were strong, like the Kabalegas and so on, they were being fought by the same Africans. Like now they are doing today, giving a few people some cramps on LGBT, and they say they come and support. Even that time, even some of the kings benefited from this because they were actually selling people. Then they give you hundreds and thousands of acres of land.
Yeah, because you disagree with the king and your whole clan is sold.
Exactly. So,
moreover, land which is yours.
Land
Where
is,
were they getting
the
it
land
from?
is yours, but they're saying we have given you. It's like now this is your shirt. I come here, I say I am going to give you that shirt, but I'm already putting it on. It's mine.
But you know, people sometimes when we talk about these things, we talk it in passing. But you realize even today, people are still saying we have given you a road, we have given you a hospital, we have given you a school.
That's the same mentality. It's actually my taxes. So now let's go to the African context of leadership. What do we need to do? I think that's where we are going now, and that's why I will want to listen to my brother Maponga more after my submission. You see, the template of the type of democracy or leadership that Africa adopted is not theirs. You have seen them during the time of leadership. We are going to benchmark. Have you seen here some laws being passed here in Uganda? And those laws tend to be oppressive to the recipients, the public. In one of the biggest arguments the parliamentarians will bring in the parliament is we have benchmarked from America. We are benchmarking. So everything they benchmark is what? But you realize that societies are different. So you must benchmark, but also compare with the realities on the ground. So the issue is we went and copied and pasted the same leadership system, democracy, what they call it. And by the way, that's not even democracy. Because democracy would mean that the majority take it, isn't it? But you have heard before Mugabe died, the Americans were telling him, but Mugabe, your party has been in power for so long. And even Tanzania here. Please, you have been in power for so long. You change. But then, what is democracy? What does the majority mean? So it means that even them, they don't believe in the system. Now, I was in UAE, United Arab Emirates, and some of these Arab countries, they have their own system of governance. For instance, in UAE, they know that there is one family which is royal, which is supposed to be leaders. They don't have presidency, they have heads, and then they have ministers picked from every state. Then they create a government. That has been on for centuries. People living in those areas, UAE, Dubai, and so on. The rest of the people, if you are not part of that royal family, you are rest assured that you will not be a leader there. Yes, so it is a settled matter. Even them, they are not bothered. Go to UK. When have you had any other family, apart from the royal family, canvassing for votes to be elected president? Or even prime minister? Have you? Their system is that it is the royal family. When the queen died, it is the son. Have you had any competition? Now, why do you want to bring that competition to Africa? For you are not adopting it because you know the repercussions, but you are pushing it on Africans. Every 5 years, go to elections. When is UK going to elections? Have you had the UAE going for elections? Are those economies, are we better than them in terms of even administration, managing society? Go to Dubai. For them, their problem is road infrastructure. In Dubai, 6 lanes is one way. Another 6 lanes is one way. That is one road. Here in Uganda, I see police and other people who don't take time to read. Most of those accidents on Masaka Road, Avukisakimama. No. How big is that road? If you count 2 cars by passing, you count a border, you count a cow, you count a goat, you count a sheep, you count a human being. Is that road enough?
And there's a madman.
Yes. Is that road enough to negotiate? So how many accidents do people in Dubai get? And they are, by the way, 3 times speedier than us here. For us here at 80, the quickest, I think, reason a police would give for the accident is
just to go to Libya, not even UAE.
So, my friend, go and see how people are organized in Dubai. They don't want to know even your politics, my brother. So, they even don't want to listen to you. They don't want. What they are interested in, service delivery. So when I fall sick, do I go to the hospital? When I want to travel, is the road clear? If I want to use my plane, is it affordable? Is it affordable for me to fly? You get it? Education, can my children go to school whether they have money or not? Availability of resources, can everybody be taken care of? Now here in Africa, in Uganda especially, every 5 years, no sense of politics. And they are saying every 5 years, but the actual thing is, there is no day we have rested from politics in Uganda. The moment someone is declared winner, the other one starts fighting, and this one starts also defending.
You have seen Nairobi.
Yes, even Uganda here in particular, Odinga there. The day someone is declared winner, this one starts contesting. Now this one starts defending his throne, isn't it? Now it's going to be politics throughout. So it's not even 5 years.
When it's time for development.
5 years is only the climax when we go to throw in our vote. But politics in Africa is every day. So look at Uganda. Since we voted 2021, has politics stopped?
You are saying that there must be a new approach.
We have to find the issues, means, African problems, African solutions. If elections after every 5 years work in America, it is okay, that's America.
4 years.
Even your economy is bigger than us. There is no election in UK. Have you heard them complaining? So why do you want to appease this white man from whom you copied this
because you are getting
this stupid democracy?
Because you are getting his money.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't it about them after 62 years for you to realize that what I copied from them is nonsense?
But
it is nonsense.
Comrade
okay, before we go to
Comrade Rumba, there is a point here. all that you have submitted is very beautiful and we can see it. Not that does not exist on the African continent. The late comrade Gaddafi was having a perfect system, the Central Committee's revolutions, or what we used to call RCM, Revolutionary Committees Movement. And the leadership was trickling from the grassroots up to the education system was free. The welfare was fine. The development trajectory was wonderful. What happened? The conspirators who organized themselves, these criminals who organized themselves under the umbrella of NATO, they came and bombarded him and destroyed the entire country.
It is America. These people are saying that conspirated. No, these people were called and given some money and given some new guns and promised very many things. Like people here supporting LGBTQ. They have been promised heaven on earth.
But South Africa was also one of them.
So some people in Libya.
That one had a problem also because like our leader was telling us here that I called my colleague in South Africa to make sure that we help our brother and put up a stiff resistance. Because he also had his own problems with those people who called him and said, don't dare. He feared that he probably was going to be referred to ICC. You see, it is only Marema now, Marema's problems are not withstanding, who was trying to manage him at that time. So you can see a web.
Yeah, so what we are saying is that it is not that the African problem is so complex, but that it is the short-sighted.
Rude interference. Yes. We need a revolution. In this revolution, we are going to lose comrades. We lost comrades during when we were washing away the direct colonial rule. We lost people. We lost people that time, including thereafter the members who participated in that direct line, including Kwame Nkrumah. We must be prepared to lose people, including ourselves, but if we must have the ideological revolution.
That notwithstanding, the irony is whether you revolt or you keep quiet, you are losing anyway. So something must be done.
But you see, I cannot fold my hands here because anyway you are stronger, you are going to beat me anyway. No, I must die fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
So Africa must sit down and find solutions for their problems, starting from leadership. How do we govern ourselves? Does that democracy imported from America work for us? If the answer is no, find your democracy. I have told you an example. UK does not go to elections every 5 years. No, until the Queen dies. When she dies, the son takes over. Now the son will die, another one from the royal family. I have told you here, these Arab countries, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and so on, they don't have your presidents.
Actually, tomorrow.
In Britain, the argument, Comrade Rumba, which they are going to advance, is that the Queen is simply ceremonial. That they have got a prime minister, like now they have Liz something Khan. That is the one who holds executive powers and is the lead of government. That this other queen and now Charles the King is nothing but ceremonial, and all he does is preside over the so-called Commonwealth.
My friend, my friend.
So they will argue.
So, but anyway, in the whole story.
Before you go, maybe let me add something. Every proposal, when they're presenting a proposal, they will sugarcoat it. That's what they're telling you. But the fact is, he's going to remain a very strong leader and managing the Commonwealth. That cannot be a ceremonial person. They will tell you that so that you accept it. But the truth is, he will be the one summoning the prime minister, and he's the one firing and appointing. That is not a ceremonial position.
But anyway, tomorrow they will be having, I think, the coronation of the king. Charles. But again, going back to religion, did you guys see what I saw? The stone that was brought, the stone of destiny.
Where was that?
Which was brought in the abbey for prayers, because there is a stone of destiny that is kept by the kingdom. That before a new king or queen is installed, that stone of destiny is first brought to the church, and then they pray for it, and then after, actually today they are removing it from the abbey, going back to keep it until a new king. Now that is not Kusamira.
No, of course, you see, the hypocrisy that has always, and my senior brother, Comrade Maponga, I believe will talk about it more deeply, is the hypocrisy we have had, and which we seem not to, at least the majority of us, we seem not to take a keen look at, is that the way the religious sects, if you will permit me, be it the Anglicanism, be it Catholicism, be it whatever you want to call it, has largely, really, eluded our mind, assuming we share the same mind, in the sense that we have taken wholesale what the colonial pastor, the colonial man, brought to African continent, and these religions, if you like, they never at any one given time, by the way, bothered to integrate what was obtaining in the different various cultures on the African continent. Never. That is why you find that as much as humanly possible, a person here who professes to be an Anglican will want to behave, even when, by the way, the Anglicans in Britain and what have you, don't behave the way we behave. We must look at baptism. When you are being baptized, I remember when I was taking my child, and don't ask me why I took my child for baptism, because the society in which we are, if you do not carry out that exercise, that child is going to miss out on so many of what would be automatic opportunities for every Ugandan or for every African. So some of these things for us who are in the Pan-African world, we do not because we believe in them, but we do and caution that this has been done for this reason, but as you progress, this is the right way. Now, having said that, what happened? Somebody said, but I don't see any name here, which is from the Bible. I was like, if we are talking about people in the Bible, and the qualification is that they either died or sacrificed for the belief, here is a name, Rugarama. Don't we have a Rugarama for the record who died at age 14 for believing in what probably he even didn't know because he died for? He was the first matter to be killed, by the way, here in Natete. And at age 14, under the Anglican faith. You see, if the qualification for those names in the Bible is that either they were martyred or they wrote or whatever occurred to them, and isn't this qualification enough? You who profess to be Anglican, and after a very heated argument, they are allowed to baptize the child.
Because you paid anyway.
Well, payment is for everybody. Whether you have insisted on the name or not, you have got to pay a figure. So at the end of the day, for me, my concern, my greatest concern is that therefore, we cannot just wish away. Because you see, we may come here and talk to our audience, not that we have got superior views than they have. No, we are sharing our opinions, but at the end of the day, we must develop a consensus, and the consensus must not be 100%. But what is this consensus that I'm talking about? That we need to start decolonizing the African minds to ensure that if we must develop on our own and move forward, certain things must be done away with. At whatever cost, they must be done away with.
And I liked, I think, Mabonga, when he was saying that as professionals, we need to have a discussion.
Yes.
People must sit down and must talk. We must identify a path that we need if Africa is to be put on the trajectory that will be able to facilitate it to participate and compete favorably with the rest of the world. Otherwise, we sit and continue lamenting, and that will be the end of the story. But as we go back to Ndugu Joshua Maponga, and it's good that the president, I think, of Uganda decided that this this LGBT1, whatever the new names.
LGBTQI plus.
QI, what, 3, cannot pass in the particular form. Of course, he has his own reservations, which were observed in when he was sending back the bill. But for Ndugu Maponga, who is following us, in Uganda, we're discussing what they have now termed as the anti-homosexual bill, which is before Parliament. And I think by the end of next week, it will now be passed because it had been sent to the President, and the President has sent it back to Parliament. In Kenya, they have already, I think, finished theirs. For them, they have allowed in a number of things to go as was, and there's a lot of debate whether it was necessary immediately after the government has come into power. People are saying, was President Ruto part of, that was the agreement before he came to office, or what was the problem behind there? But I know the other time I was hearing a parent who is from Ghana in the US saying that it will not, because the US now, a teacher can tell your child that you are transgender, you are not a man, or you are not a woman, you are transgender. And
queer.
Yes, queer. And for you, a parent, you may not know that, but a child comes back and tells you he's a queer or a transgender or whatever, or he's a cat.
Total madness.
That's what is happening to some of those things that we used to call the dreams. But I know Ndugu Maponga has also been a victim of all these forces. And I know President Mugabe, when he was leaving, he also had a very big struggle with Americans and with the British when he stood his ground about this issue of homosexuality. Ndugu Maponga, while we go into many other things, let's share your experience with this issue, because I know a number of times you have been dragged to court as being hostile to the gay people.
There's a book that I want us to visit, which my friends are very familiar with. Express, I think Chinua Achebe, in his book, Things Fall Apart, he encapsulates prophetic writing that our generation needed to revisit. And we need to read that book and make it compulsory for every African child to understand the complexities of cultural, religious, political, and economic transitions. I think that would be very critical. Now I hear you also commenting about the British monarch. The British monarch stands, and Britain remains one of the strongest economies in the world for one simple reason. The center is holding. The center holds. And who holds the community together? It is the royalty. I want to submit to my two learned friends and you, my honorable interviewer, that all governments, all African governments are crime scenes. I'll qualify that. Because they are administering land which does not belong to them. They are collecting taxes on a land which does not belong to them. The political muscle that we have used to take over land in our liberation struggle, we were saying we will return back land to the people. I still have a question. Where are those people whom we are supposed to return land to? Our military leaders went into power and they assumed the role of the kings for themselves under the model of the colonialists themselves. That needs to change. The concept of the British having a king and having a parliament, it means that the parliament reports to the king, not the kings reporting to the parliament. In other words, the president must be a CEO and the chairman of the country must be the cultural leader of that country. So the center can hold. I want to express that clearly. Democracy comes with its own culture. Democracy comes with its own fundings. And all these things that we are talking about are packaged in this bag where it seems like they're selling us a sheep. But if you look very carefully, it's a pig inside there. It's a pig. And we needed, therefore, to understand that my troubles with the gay and LGBT issue was based again on a religious issue. I was preaching at a church and I said, when two young dogs are playing and the time for mating comes, they will look for a female. But our young boys and girls no longer know the difference between male and female. Someone sitting in the audience then goes on to say, Maponga said that gay people are dogs. I said, number one, you don't understand English. You know, I did not say they're dogs. Because by saying they're dogs, you are saying that dogs are homosexual. And dogs are not homosexual. I am saying the intelligence of dogs, when it comes to reproduction, has become more superior to the intelligence of human beings. So you cannot even reduce dogs to same-sex and LGBT issues. Now the whole country went amok. I disrespected them. I needed to apologize to the gay community, and I was dragged to court for months on end, trying to make me. I said, but what is freedom of expression? I'm not the perpetrator of injustice here.
Sure.
The first problem we have is God Himself. The second problem we have is the printers of the book itself, who is the King James in America, New International Version in Britain, and etc. The third problem are the universities that are teaching us these things to interpret this text. Then the other problem are the churches. And I am just number 4, number 5 on the complainant. How do you come to kill me at the bottom of the food chain when the Bible actually says gays must be stoned, they must be killed, and etc. And it's not me who wrote that text, but the country and America and Britain will not want to touch the
wow.
Issue of the authorship of the book, because it belongs to them. Now, when we interpret it, we become and so you would find that in the midst of us discussing is not holding. I go back there. We needed to redefine ourselves, our culture, our heritage. And when 10 people are sitting in a room and 9 people say no to sex marriage, and 1 person says yes to same-sex marriage, democracy says America comes tomorrow morning and say no, you can't work like that. The 1 person must rule the 9 and teach your children to become like him so that you can be in a democratic space. I say that is not democracy.
Sure.
That's another monster altogether. So, and for me, these are academic conversations that we need to start having and say, do we really believe in democracy by the American definition, or meritocracy by the Chinese definition, or monarchical system by the British definition, or believe in some other form of monarchy and governance by the Dubai demonstration? So Africa needs to redefine how it wants to govern itself. And I think that's pillar number 1 on the questions of African solutions, which is the pillar of government.
Yeah, I think he has gone off the network. We'll get him back. But he's raising issues that actually you would look at and really make a lot of understanding. Because when it comes to issues of religion, actually, we are only, if we are being guided by the Bible, then what the Americans, what the Europeans are teaching us are actually illegal, let alone being criminal. Because these are things that are not founded in the Bible.
You know why they are doing that? Americans are not doing that to Russia. They are not doing it to China. No, they are doing it to Africa. Because they believe our job is simply to follow them. And I would like to applaud Mr. Maponga's submission on homosexuals. The Americans themselves are the one who said democracy is a majority over
the minority.
He has brought a very good example.
But actually, even beyond that, they also talk of the freedom of expression, but also respect.
Yes. For human rights.
Yes. So if the majority are saying this is not what we want, then you are saying, but this is the human right. Now, who is deciding? And Maponga will also talk something about the African values. And that's why he has had a problem with the people both home but also
Maponga is not alone. I have had problems because of my views about LGBT and others. I cannot travel to certain countries. I will not tell you. I have had my social media accounts. You know, there is a way they bring back the feed. You post something, they decide how many people should see it. They can say 5 or 10 people have seen. You get it? They bring you down. They have done that to me, and I am used. To me, that's even not news to me. I'm used. The point is this: America, who tries to, put on the suit
and preach
outside and preach about democracy. In fact, America wants the world to emulate him. That America should be a good example. America itself, when somebody on this earth is deemed by Americans as their enemy, they will come and pick you from whatever part of the world you are without following any protocol. They just bring their chopper of UN, they come and pick you here from Kampala Street, they put in their chopper, they take you. Where they take you, nobody will ask. Now, most of those such characters are in Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Which is
Guantanamo Bay is not part of America, it's Cuba. You get it?
Yes.
There they don't manufacture ice cream. They have taken you there for torturing. You get it? It's not a company that manufactures ice cream that they are going to give you ice cream. No, torture. It's a torture chamber, the headquarters of America.
And they talk about human rights.
They come here, they teach about human rights. Number two, Americans have taught Africans to emulate them that it is the majority view that takes the day. Now, when you calculate here, globally, what is the percentage of homosexuals vis-a-vis the rate of human beings? What is so why do you want them to rule over us when they are the minority? You get it? America, where do you get the audacity to think that what you think in America, in Georgia, is what should work in Kampala? Who are you? Now, that kind of superiority complex is what we have allowed, and this is also to blame the African leaders. These African leaders know what exactly is going on.
That's my problem.
They even know that this continent is being sold by them. They are aware.
But you have been promised
when Gaddafi tried to start mobilizing them together to create African Development Bank so that he stopped going to IMF and World Bank, so that our monetary issues are controlled from Africa. Why should America tell me that $1 of theirs is equivalent to my 3,800 shillings?
There is nothing that is backing
there
up
is
that
nothing.
dollar apart from
if you ask him, give me the basis, what is the basis? What is the argument?
Missiles.
So, those are some of the issues Gaddafi wanted to solve here. But these Africans also are hypocrites. When the Gaddafi started speaking, they were saying, yeah, we are with you, we are with you. When the Americans came, they started now analyzing. I think here you have done bad. I think you have gone too early. I think you must have first measured how big is America. They started analyzing. But when he was attending all these UN conferences, calling them to Libya, meeting, coming to their countries, having indoor closed meetings with them on the issue of raising Africa and standing together, they were all with him. In fact, even started funding some of their countries' national budgets.
Yeah, even their
when he was attacked, they did like this. So he was killed. Now, they were killing Gaddafi because of, they think, democracy. Now, have Americans taken a democracy in Libya? Is there democracy in Libya? Is there development in Libya?
Let them first have democracy in
You
America.
get it? So, the same people who are saying democracy, themselves, they cannot even experience it in their hands. It's not there. It's not there.
Let's go back to Ndugu Maponga. I guess by now is back online because the network was breaking. Ndugu Maponga, you can continue from the point where you were, and we continue from there.
I want to raise a very important issue based on our title, religion, and development. And the question is, are these democratic rights not in conflict with the religious rights that they taught us? You see, you find another hypocrisy there. They come around and say you must be a Christian. A Christian behaves like this, like this, like this, like this. You must baptize you. Then you become like Jesus. Then you accept that. Tomorrow morning they come around again and say, now you must become gay. You must. So what do you want? What do you want exactly? What do you want exactly? We need to start questioning these things, because they say one thing and they behave in another way. And for me, this is the conflict that we are caught up as Africans discussing religion instead of discussing developmental issues that transform our societies. I think.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Members here were also very interested in hearing from you about the issue of now the future leadership of Africa. What in your thinking, and of course with the organizations that you are involved in, what do you think Africa, which path Africa should take in raising leadership that is going to be conscious about its people, its future, and its development? Well, we may have lost him. I think. Oh, yeah, he's online. We are not getting sound from Maponga.
Maponga, you mute yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Is that okay? Is that okay now?
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. We are now getting you loud and clear.
The transformation we need as Africans is in the hands of the young people. Because you cannot spend 25 years in an academic institution, another 10 years, 20 years working to educate your children, buy a house and cars and get in debt. By the time you're 60 or 70, you are now a CEO of an organization, and to transform and change that organization becomes difficult. We need a new software. We need new leadership that has a different agenda altogether from the grassroots. It has taken America 400 years to develop their quote-unquote democracy to be where it is. We must not be scared as Africans to stop the train if it is going in the direction you don't want it to go. If you want to go to Jaja and someone is going to Lumumbashi, you need to make a decision. Do you continue to Jaja and then come back to Kampala and go to Lumumbashi? Or you stop the train and say, sorry, this is going where I don't want it to go. And I think on the Africa Union space, we need some candid, honest conversations that can tell African leaders, you are taking us where we don't want to go. I don't want to become part of the global village. I don't want to have a chip put in my body. I don't believe in the international way of health systems and agricultural and GMO foods. I don't believe in landless people. And if this is what the world wants, and Africa does not want that, we cannot have 331 million people dictating, not even being democratic, dictating to 1.4, if not 2.5 billion people who are in Africa.
Sure. Yeah, we are listening.
Yeah, he has finished. He has finished his submission.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The train is going in the wrong direction.
And it has
Tell
to
your
stop.
bus drivers.
Yes.
Tell your bus drivers. Tell Museveni. Tell Mnangagwa. Tell Ruto. Tell Farke in the Africa Union. Stop. Just stop. Stop the bus.
Gentlemen,
I thank
you. You have heard from Maponga, and he's talking about issues actually some of the times who have pondered here, said So what happens? Are we going the right direction with the leadership? Are leaders conscious and sensitive about the wishes and aspirations of the people of Africa, or where is the problem? But of course, the other problem has been, which we have also looked at some point, the pipe, who pays the piper sets the tune.
Calls the tune.
Yes. Now, if they have funded your campaign into elections, if they have supported the programs that help you to get back to power and the time is running out, are you going to listen to the people who actually, with or without the support, you can still find yourself back into leadership, or you are going to listen to these guys who are going to bankroll you for the next election and the other program?
The truth of the matter, Comrade Mututa and our dear viewers, is that largely speaking on the African continent, and we have had this conversation before, but you see, like in Christianity and other religions, when you stop communing, then you know that the growth and sustainability of that faith is certainly on a sure way to its death. So we are not going to stop talking in the Pan-African ranks simply because we have talked about these issues. The moment the message has not yet sunk in people's minds, it is our duty, cardinal duty, to keep preaching this gospel until when we achieve results. Now, having said that, there is a blueprint for Africa and other developing economies. And this blueprint is written by the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and IMF, whereby the software that Maponga has continuously talked about, the moment you have got a system, the framework of the African governance is not organic, is not us that generate it. It is not generated at the African Union. It is not the committees that and the heads of states that are chaired by Faike, because if he was, then he would not have taken a decision to invite Israel as an observer without the consideration and the input of the African leaders, which of course was rejected, and you saw the observers, Israel observers, being ejected about 3 months ago from African Union. The blueprint that I'm talking about, the economic blueprint especially, that is written by the Bretton Woods institutions, is what Muammar Gaddafi and his colleagues, other colleagues now who have gone into formation of the BRICS, the alternative of the IMF and World Bank, which of course is meeting a lot of resistance. And if Chief Kaid was still with us, he had started on a note of dollarization. The world now is dollarizing. They are going away from the dollar. And that argument is a very big argument. Why are they going away from the dollar? How are they going away from the dollar? And what will be what are the consequences so far, and where are we headed? Because you see, this dollar that America has for a number of years not been backing with anything that economics knows in the world of banking and economics. America has simply made the dollar the global trading currency without backing it with anything known in economics, and apart from the military might. Now that other worthy opposition with military weight are saying no, first of all, you cannot hit us. If you are talking about nuclear capability, we also have, probably at the same level, even more. And we are checking and we are coming into collaboration. Now that you cannot send your jackals to come to us, you can only attempt to hit us economically, but we have also developed resilience and economic muscle. Therefore, now, where we are is that, and this, it takes me back to what I told our audience, that what we need as Africa is to have a deliberate revolution, ideological, which is going to cost us human life, which is going, and has seen over time, by the way, has seen the overthrow of progressive leaders, assassinations, coups, and it's not only on the African continent. In Venezuela, Maduro is suffering what he's suffering with his people in Venezuela simply because he has embarked, or he embarked for that matter, on making sure that the oil reserves of Venezuela benefit the people. Cuba is suffering what she is suffering, not because there has been any problem with Air Commandant Fidel Castro and the rules who came after him, but simply because Cuba decided to take an independent economic, political, social path for the benefit of her people. What we need to do in recapitulation, what we need to do as Africa, as a continent, is to make sure that we progress, and the people, the preachers are going to be few. We must develop a class of preachers in the direction of decolonizing the African mind, with the view that after we have decolonized and people have gotten the proper ideological orientation, they are going to cause change in social economic aspects by doing away with some of the policies that are developed in the organizations which are foreign, not ours, and it will come at a cost, including coups, including further assassinations, including, I hate to say, winter.
Ndugu Nani has raised that issue of these double standards.
Yes, hypocrisy.
Because if you have taught us Christianity, and we so obliged, and we said we are now Christians, and then you are coming also to tell us other things which are now even anti-Christian.
Yes,
now,
you teach Christians that you say this is your constitution. The constitution is the Bible, and then we say where is the homosexuality as a clause or an article in this constitution called the Bible? And you say that one we can debate it. But I wanted to say, I was also making me forget. I wanted to say, America itself has never been a democracy, because if democracy is the leadership of the people by the people, and that the majority are the ones who carry the day. Tell me, what is the political structure of America? We have had, what happened, for instance, is that this roadman, Hillary Clinton, was she not the person who got the majority votes in America? Did she become the president? No. So if it is the majority people carrying the day, the person who carries out, there is such a thing as majority votes, but you do not become the leader simply because of the courageous and what happened. Well, that is confusing democracy, and they want to bring the same confusion from the other side here.
Now, a lot, of course, when it comes to the democracy and even the definition of it, what it means. And in fact, like we said, you have told people this is what should be the thing. Talking about Christian, then tomorrow you said, but by the way, there's something else. And of course, when you look at even the Christianity we're talking about, you cannot credit America or the Europe for any of the things that Christianity would be linked to, because if you are talking about slave trade, they are the same people who taught religion, are the same people who are slave trading in humanities and thinking that Africans were lesser in being, and that mentality maybe up to today has not gone away from some of those thinking. And when it comes to the church, and I appreciate and really commend the Church of Uganda for cutting links with the Westminster, with the global movement of the Anglican, because they are saying, like you are saying, this is what we now read in the Bible, let alone what you told us. But what you are telling us is not backed by this Bible. Then how do we reconcile the two? Are we still following the Bible or abandoning the Bible for something else? And that is where the problem is. Now that Africa know, these are some of the revolutions I think that you guys are talking about that are taking place today. But Ndugu Irumba was talking about the experience. When you start up to speak the values of the Africans, because I think the belief has been that the African values are inferior and they are barbaric. Is that true even? But when you start to tell people that, look, if it is being barbaric, there are other values that are more barbaric. I think we heard from Maponga when he was talking about the dogs, that even dogs, dogs could also take you to court for accusing them falsely, because that is not who they are. So when you look at the values, vis-a-vis the personal gains that we gain from being closer to the West, you talked of sometimes even being barred from going to some countries for whatever. Now, you realize that the problem is even more compounded and bigger than that. But again, the biggest thing is that, like you said in the beginning, some of these things are being promoted by our own people, and the support is being given by our own people.
To begin with, I think, to complement on Mr. Maponga's point about LGBTQ, LGBTQ should actually stop using the human rights as their yardstick to defend their rights. Because, as you hear, human rights, they are rights for human beings. Now, we consider fauna and flora, because also they are rights for animals and birds and so on, isn't it? Now, those rights are for those two categories, fauna and flora. LGBTQ falls nowhere. So they cannot say we are human beings, therefore these are human rights. No, these are not yours, these are ours. These are rights to protect us from you whom we don't know. Because they even came in this world and created their own world, they call it minority group. Who told you that you are minority? From where? We
are running out of time.
From which group?
But let's get...
Who has told you that you are minority?
Let's get a closing remark from Ndugu Maponga before we go off the screens. But I can assure the audience that Ndugu Maponga will always be coming to us whenever we'll have time with us. And we appreciate your time from Zimbabwe. So you can make your closing remarks before we go off the screens.
Every time you try to be like me, you are forfeiting me an opportunity to experience you. Now that we are becoming like them, who will become like us?
Sure.
I thank you.
Oh, that is very interesting. I just like this guy, and we will thank you, but we shall always be disturbing you sometimes whenever you have time, and whenever you will have time to come to Uganda, you'll be welcome. Uganda is very interesting, very welcoming, and we will want our brothers from Zimbabwe to always be with us, visit with us, and we shall be visiting with you.
We are coming there for elections.
And soon we shall be also coming there to monitor the elections, and we see how our democracy is there. Thank you so much.
Greetings to Brian Kagoro.
Yes, Ndugu Rugarama, you can make your closing remarks, and then we can...
No, simply really to say to our dear viewers that I thank you so much for keeping with us most of the time. This, I know, is a very serious and sentimental topic, and for whoever feelings have been hurt, I don't know what to say, because we have really expressed our sincere views. We do not claim to be absolute custodians of knowledge. These are our opinions, but majority of them are based on research and what we have also observed over time. I want to thank Comrade Maponga and Comrade Kaidi and the management of UBC, and I think this time around, maybe to conclude by saying that we are witnessing a wave on the African continent. particularly in Uganda, where we are losing our leaders. These political leaders are at the hands of the people who are supposed to be protectors, and it is very unfortunate.
Yes, Erum.
Thank you so much, Comrade Maponga there and Comrade Kaidi. Thank you so much for being part of today's debate. And it was so enriching, Comrade Maponga, listening to you. How I wish we had more time. I think we should have more time and interact. And that's now the continent is talking. You see, when we are here in Uganda, we are speaking at the same minute, real time with Mr. Maponga in Zimbabwe. Our forefathers didn't have this technology. So what are we doing? What are we using it for? Comrade Maponga is there right now. We can hear each other. It would take someone 3 months to receive a letter from Uganda to Ethiopia and then to respond back that say, yeah. But they managed to fight for the African continent, for the rest of, what are we, the Africans of today, how are we using the social media? So I am glad we must connect with the world because Africa is powerful. Africa is the richest continent. The problem is that Africans are the poorest. Africa as a continent is not poor.
Because that's what
the Africans are very poor.
Exactly.
Africans. And they are poor from their mindset.
Thank you so much. Of course, time cannot allow us to continue beyond this, and it has been very interesting listening from different corners of the world and also sharing these views that actually maybe not new, maybe not unique, but also very interesting. The most important thing is how do we look at us ourselves. Ndugumabonga put it, if we are copying from them, then who is going to be we? We are not going to be anyone. But we thank you so much, Ndugumabonga. We thank you, Kaidi. We thank the production team behind this program. Until next Friday is when we shall meet again. And please be safe. Let's take care of ourselves. And we sympathize with those who have lost lives, especially in Rwanda, but also the ongoing conflict in Sudan and other parts of Africa and the world. In the meantime, I thank all viewers who have been with us throughout this program. I say, keep with us, and UBC is still continuing with more interesting programs. Please don't go away, but thank you so much for now until we meet next week on Friday. Bye for now.
Thank you.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.